You're listening to the soundtrack of 2022's The Batman. This simple melody is an audio cue to indicate that Batman is about to appear. Breaking down this melody into its constituent parts reveals the two little hooks tugging at our ears. And once these hooks are given meaning within the story, the smallest structural unit in music is created, a motif. Don't let its size deceive you. Motifs are powerful tools for manipulating the subconscious. They allow the filmmakers to layer additional narratives through audio. And the development of these motifs can be as important as that of the characters. Let's take a few examples. At the heart of The Lord of the Rings is the ring itself. When Frodo picks it up. When Gandalf explains its power. Or the narrator reveals its history.
It began with the forging of the great rings.
This melody begins to play. The leitmotif of this melody consists of the three notes at the beginning. Similarly, at the heart of Star Wars is the Force. When characters discuss the Force, wield it, or simply feel it, the audience will hear this melody. The leitmotif here is the interval of an ascending fourth at the beginning. The leitmotif that persists throughout Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy is this minor third. Two notes, D and F. They accelerate, slow down, change scale, reverse, and fade out, but all indicate one thing: Batman's identity. We've all heard movie soundtracks, but let me show you how audio motifs work to manipulate your brain so they become as equally important to the narrative as cinematography. The movie opens with a low D. You might interpret it as a bat flapping its wings or the sound of Batman's cape. You're now primed to feel Batman's close whenever you hear this rhythm. This rhythm is often accompanied by its second form, the Batman rhythm of interlaced D and F, which is connected to the character's origins. Evolve this rhythm, stretch the D and F, crescendo, and you have that familiar minor third interval. This is the cue accompanying Bruce's transformation into Batman, both in the beginning and throughout as he discusses crime. After being mocked by the crime lord Falcone, Rachel's words awaken him from his vendetta.
Falcone may not have killed your parents, Bruce.
And force him to confront the larger tragedy behind his parents' murders. He decides to leave Gotham to further investigate that realization, train with the League of Shadows, and to transform his fear into a force for good. You could say that this acoustic hook defines Bruce Wayne's journey into becoming Batman.
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting.
What symbol?
Something elemental, something terrifying.
There's also an ultimate version of this rhythm. One that combines all three forms we've talked about and adds a very loud major chord at the top of the crescendo. It transforms Bruce Wayne from flesh and blood into the symbol, Batman. Now you might begin to wonder, why did Hans Zimmer pick these two notes as Batman's leitmotif?
And one of the things which I kept thinking is that, I mean, the reason I ended up with just two notes was really that it's like, what is the next phrase? He's stuck. His life, you know, he can never become that heroic.
However, becoming the symbol is only Bruce's first step. When our hero is in crisis and begins to doubt his legitimacy as an icon of justice, the once harmonic minor third is contaminated by a C-sharp note, which does not belong on the D minor scale.
That's what I'm talking about. Air cav.
The dissonance affects not only the melody, but also the rhythmic pattern. And when our hero strikes, the chord changes with him, evolving the scene into a dramatic rescue. Until the villains start to fight back. The brass choir finally breaks through that C-sharp, restoring the Batman chord.
See those bad guys on the floor above? They're waiting for almost the lights coming up the elevator.
Cool, right? But wait, there's more.
Why so serious?
The first note in Batman's leitmotif, D, is developed into the leitmotif for another character, the Joker, Batman's opposite. As we now hear, Joker's leitmotif is in fact a D note climbing through multiple octaves. When Joker is on screen, about to be, or when he seizes control of a scene.
Why so serious?
This high-pitched noise starts ringing in our ears.
You have nothing to threaten me with. Nothing to do with all your strength.
You know, it's the idea of a bow or steel cable being pulled and figuring out when will it snap. And I'm not going to tell you when it will snap. And I never let it snap.
Our team tried to recreate this particular piece and discovered that what truly makes Joker's theme excel is not the melody, but the rhythm. Take this violin track, for instance. It has an irregular rhythmic pattern of 4/4. Take note of this accented beat. This pattern, representing the Joker, is in stark contrast to Batman's stable 4/4 pattern. In certain scenes, we can hear these two rhythmic patterns competing with each other.
I need to talk about something little, huh?
Out of here. Davis! Man, we're gonna have to move him now.
Such dissonance can also be found in another antagonist, Bane. Listen to this 5/4 pattern, which dominates the majority of the Dark Knight Rises soundtrack.
What's the next step of your master plan?
Crashing this plane.
But why does Batman's rhythmic pattern appear so infrequently in The Dark Knight Rises? To answer that, we must go return to the story. After Batman assumed the blame for Harvey Dent's death, Bruce Wayne has been living a secluded life in Wayne Manor. He's in a self-imposed exile, isolated, so we barely hear the familiar Batman pattern and D major chords throughout the first half of The Dark Knight Rises. Only when people remember Batman does this rhythm surface, like a distant memory. Those two notes resonating in an ethereal synthesizer timbre. Sometimes the leitmotifs tease us. They get so close to reappearing only to stop at the last moment.
I'm retired.
Well, let me show you some stuff anyway.
Batman was not ready to return. Only when Batman does finally reappear do we once again hear his leitmotif fighting for dominance over Bane's. However, it has returned to the crisis archetype of the second film and remains undeveloped, until Bruce returns to the dungeon once again and the chord is completed. Let's take a few minutes to demonstrate the extent to which cinematic impact can be elevated by a talented composer. Captured by Bane, Bruce has been trapped at the bottom of a dungeon. To regain his freedom and save Gotham, he must complete a seemingly impossible climb. The music we hear is a loop of 4 ascending bass notes, accompanied by the chants of other prisoners in 5/4. That's right, 5/4 is Bane's rhythm. First attempt, Bruce fails. The music stops at the pitch of the third note, then falls. Then, when Gotham City is in crisis,
Fear is why you fail.
No, I'm not afraid.
to a more intense beat, Bruce begins his second attempt. Again, the music and prisoners chant Bane's rhythm. Bruce remains under his shadow. Defeated and lost, it appears that Bruce has been thrown back to his starting point.
You do not fear death.
He must master and control his fear of death. Beginning with a D note, this third climb is in a loop of 6 phrases.
As the child is.
Watch how the progress of Bruce's final attempt rises and falls with the soundtrack.
Without the rope, then fear will find you again.
Ah, supplies for your journey. Oh, that's wonderful.
What does that mean?
Rise.
Compared to other masters like John Williams or Howard Shore, Hans Zimmer is in fact not much of a leitmotif-driven composer. And the use of leitmotifs is far from the only way to do movie soundtracks. However, one thing is certain, And that is, soundtracks don't just set an audience into the right mood. Far more importantly, they can create an audio impression that stands apart from the overwhelming barrage of information and unites it all with something coherent and meaningful. You don't need to understand musical theory to appreciate film scores on an instinctual level. In the words of Steven Spielberg, the role of sound is to make us believe. It allows bicycles to fly, dinosaurs to walk the earth, and the Force to unleash its power. It lets us laugh and cry at the cinema. That's it for our latest dive into the screen galaxy. A special thanks to our excellent staff for the post-editing and scripting. We are Game Cores. Thank you for watching this episode. If you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe to our channel. More content coming. Stay tuned.